Hi, this is Pitejo from Veil of the Ages, and in this video I'm going to tell you about game number 2 in the German division. We will have Theokrit with the Infernal Dwarves playing against the Empire of Sonnstahl, which is now in the hands of Nautilus. So we haven't seen the patrol for the Empire of Sonnstahl yet in this tournament. There's one wizard, 5 electoral cavalry with agility 0, and great weapons. Light infantry with handgun and 15 imperial guards. On the other side, the Infernal Dwarves have a prophet, 10 citadel guards, the 20 vassal levy and 3 Tauruk. Now we roll the map with 4 terrain pieces, as you can see here. Theokrit wins the first roll, decides to go to the side where the hill is, and deploys as such with the Tauruk in the south and the citadel guard right behind the hindering terrain. In the middle the levies, and behind them the prophet. On the other side, Nautilus decides to go with the electoral cavalry to the north and the imperial guard towards the impassable terrain. The wizard is going solo and is behind the hindering terrain. Now in game 1, in turn 1, movement phase, you see that the Tauruk starts the flanking movement, and there's a bit of a movement forward for the citadel guards. In the magic phase, Theokrit manages to cast a silver spike on the electoral cavalry and kills 1. Nothing happens in the shooting phase, and we jump to turn 1 for the Empire of Sonnstahl. And here, as you can see, there's movement forward from the Imperial Guard in the south, getting closer to the impassable terrain, and the Electoral Cavalry that manages to wheel twice and get into the hindering terrain. And gunners moving forward by a tiny little bit. And in the magic phase, there's a corruption of tin being cast on the Tauruk. They're too far away for the silver spike, which now is 24 inches. Silver spike goes on the levies instead and kills 1. The shooting phase, the handgunners shoot at the Tauruk, which lose 1, also because of the corruption of tin, but they pass the panic test. Now, Infernal Dwarves turn 2, charge phase. Nothing happens. In the movement phase, you can see that the Tauruk go behind by 1 inch, and the levies start to move forward a tiny little bit towards the electoral cavalry. In the magic phase is 7 versus 4. That means that Theokrit puts another silver spike on the electoral cavalry, killing another 1. They pass the panic test though, but it's a triple, and so that means that the prophet has lost the spell and cannot cast it again for the rest of this battle. Yeah, that's magic, I guess. Then in the shooting phase, the citadel guards fails to put another wound on the cavalry. Now we go to turn 2 for the Empire of Sonnstahl. Charge phase. There's a charge that's declared from the electoral cavalry into the prophet, because they're reckoning that between shooting and magic they're losing quite some bodies, so they try and get in there, maybe force a couple of panic tests, but if they manage to break the prophet, but they fail the charge, and so they move forward. We had a bit of a discussion on whether they had to do the wheeling 1 inch. That would have put them with a discretization out of the charging trajectory, so in the end we decided to do this bit of a wheel and then move forward by a bit. In the rest of the movement phase, you see that not much really happens. I would say that the wizard moves to the north. Then it's 6 dice v4. It's time for another corruption of tin on the Tauruk, and then a silver spike on the prophet that manages to put 1 wound on the dude. Then in the shooting phase, I guess the Theocrit gets lucky and manages to save that 1 extra wounds there. Now, as you can see from the stopwatch behind the purple cube, we're at 45 minutes, and this is half of the game, so we're running kind of late. You will see whether we go past the 1 hour mark. Now, in the charge phase for turn 3 for the Infernal Dwarves, there's a charge declared from the Tauruk into the Imperial Guards, but they fail, and so they only wheel by 1 inch in that direction. Then in the movement phase, there's a shuffling forwards from the levies that get into the zone, and then also a bit from the Citadel Guards that moves forward and tries and get clean line of sight. Then the Prophet goes and tries to chaff the electoral cavalry, put it in there, limiting their movement. Now in the magic phase, it's 4 dice. That means that you can put all of them on the corruption of tin. The silver spike is gone anyway. And then we go to the shooting phase, and Nautilus gets very lucky with the armor saves and manages to only lose one electoral cavalry knight there, and also sticks for the panic test. Now it's turn 3 for the Empire, and the knights, they decide that they have to get out of harm's way with all these spells and all this shooting, and so they charge into the Citadel Guards, which hold. They also manage to get in the way so that they won't be flanked by the levies. And then in the remaining moves, both units go forward because they have to start taking care of the scoring zone. Now in the magic phase, there's another silver spike being cast on the prophet. It miscasts, but Theocrit doesn't want to lose the prophet, so the spell starts. In the shooting phase, there's the handgunners cannot really shoot at the Taruk at the bottom because of line of sight issues, so they put 10 attacks into the levies. They kill 4 out of 19, so it's not a panic test. Then we go into combat, and the knights are striking last because they have agility 0, they have strength 5. The Citadel Guards go first, and then they maul entirely the knights between the good quality attacks and the spell. It's game over soon. It's the last turn for the Infernal Dwarves. Charges with everybody except the Citadel Guards that will have to move into position, and the Prophet fails the charge into the handgunners. The levies fail the charge into the Imperial Guards, but the Tauruk make the charge into the flank of the Imperial Guards. And in the remaining moves, then the Citadel Guards manages to get into the zone as well. In the magic phase, Theocrit tries to cast Corruption of Tin on the Imperial Guards, but that gets dispelled. And in the combat phase, this big, massive combat between these 2 elite units, no wounds whatsoever. They just fail everything, and except for the break test that the Imperial Guard manages to pass. We are now at the last turn. There are no charges. In the magic phase, there's a Corruption of Tin being cast on the Citadel Guards, which goes through. Then Silver Spike on the Prophet, but this time it gets dispelled. It was a scary one, could have been a couple of panic tests. Then shooting, and all the shooting goes into the Citadel Guards, but they only kill 2, so there's no panic test to be done there. So we go into the last combat, and once again absolutely nothing happens. So they stick as they are, nothing moves, and the game ends like this, with 2 units in the zone for the Infernal Dwarves, and 2 units in the zone by a few pixels for the Empire of Sonnstahl as well. So it's a 2v2, 0 points to be attributed, but -1 for both players, because the game ended up lasting some 1 hours and a half, I would say. And that concludes the battle report. I will see you soon with the next and last battle report for the qualification phase, which we will play between Empire of Sonnstahl and Vampire Covenant in Group Germany. Bye.